Now that we've installed the Windows Deployment Services role, we're going to navigate through the initial configuration. I'm going to go to Tools. In Tools, if I scroll down the list, I have Windows Deployment Services near the bottom. So that's how we launch our WDS. When I expand servers, I see my WDS server. When I click on it, notice it has this yellow triangle with the exclamation mark in it. That means WDS is not yet configured. So whenever you deploy a WDS server, the very first thing you have to do after you install the role is actually the initial configuration. To get through that configuration, I'm going to right-click my WDS, and there's an option to configure server. The first thing that comes up is the before you begin. This reiterates many of the things we've said before. Earlier we said you need to have a DNS server, you need to have a DHCP server, you need to be formatted with an NTFS file system. Almost any network you go to, those three things would already be done. The top one says, make sure this server is a member of an Active Directory domain, or you want to install this in a standalone mode. So Active Directory is not technically required, but if I don't have Active Directory, or the machine itself is a member of a workgroup instead of the domain, I have to install it in this standalone mode. I'm going to click Next for that. As we just said, I can integrate this with Active Directory, or I can have it detached from Active Directory if I elected to deploy standalone. Now, I want mine integrated with Active Directory, so I'm going to choose that option. The integrated with Active Directory option simply means I have the ability through WDS to image a computer and have that computer automatically join to the domain at the time it goes to the imaging process. I will choose Next for that. The remote installation folder location is the image repository path. Every image you add to the WDS server gets saved to that folder. Ideally, you would save this to a drive that is not the same drive that the operating system is installed on, just so you don't have disk contention between the OS trying to access the hard drive and WDS trying to deliver an image to a client. I'm going to leave that on the C drive though. When I click Next, I do get this system volume warning stating what we just said. Volume selected is also the Windows system volume, simply meaning it has an operating system on it. For best performance and reliability, this should be installed on a separate volume. Now we will ignore that warning. I'll just say yes, and I can move that after the fact. The next question is about PXE, the pre-boot execution environment. PXE. Everyone just calls it PXE. PXE is the ability to boot from your network adapter. So with PXE, I can say I do not want my WDS to respond to these PXE requests. In practical terms, if I enable PXE, it means I can go to a client computer that I want to put an image on, and I can actually boot that machine, and I can choose to boot from the network adapter. If I do that, it automatically sends a broadcast through the network looking for a PXE server. My WDS can be that PXE server. So if we do that, I'm going to actually boot from WDS, and my client would pull down an image. This lets me decide if I want to enable or disable PXE. So I can say do not respond to any client computers. That would disable PXE. Respond only to known client computers. The bottom option, respond to all client computers, known and unknown. A known client computer simply means you have created a computer account in the domain for the computer that you're about to image. An unknown computer means you don't have an account for that computer in the domain, and one has to be created when you install the operating system on your client computer. At any point, I can come back and change any of these options. For now, I'm just going to say respond to all client computers, known and unknown. I'll choose Next for that. That's going to copy some files needed by WDS, and the initial configuration of WDS is done. So it tells me we were successful, and it gives me the option to add images to the WDS server if I choose to. I'm just going to deselect that for now. Add images, click Finish, In the next section, we'll look at adding some images to WDS.